Hey, everybody. Welcome to Moment of Clarity, number 51. Good to see you. Thanks for joining me. This is this is an amazing story about Twitter's bullshit censorship actually backfiring in their face. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But also in not too long, in a few minutes, I'm also going to have on Sherry Honkala. You might know her as the co-founder of the Poor People's Army and the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign. Also formerly the vice presidential candidate for the Green Party with Jill Stein. She will be joining me in a few minutes, but I want to start out with this story. And yes, I'm starting 5 minutes early for, give you a bonus for showing up early, right? The Gray Zone put out another amazing article. They've really been killing it recently. And let's see, I can show you the article. So this is an article about they got leaked documents showing Reuters and BBC, obviously two highly respected media outlets, and Bellingcat, which is known to be a garbage propaganda outlet. Reuters, BBC, and Bellingcat participated in covert UK Foreign Office funded programs to weaken, quote unquote, weaken Russia, leaked docs reveal. And when I said Reuters and BBC are respected, I didn't mean by me. I didn't mean I respect them. I don't respect them at all. I meant a lot of people out there respect them, mainly sad liberals. But anyway, Reuters and BBC. So this is a kind of a bombshell story to begin with. What happened after it is kind of more hilarious, but it's a bombshell story to begin with. That Reuters and BBC, from leaked documents, we now know signed contracts, and Bellingcat signed contracts with the UK Foreign Office, and in order to weaken Russia, in order to put forward propaganda harming Russia. Now, if you view the BBC and Reuters and Bellingcat as outlets where their job is to create propaganda, to manufacture consent for wars around the world and Cold Wars against Russia and China, et cetera, et cetera. If you view that as their job, then this is nothing groundbreaking. But if you are our mainstream elite, our mainstream oligarchs, and all of the liberals who fawn over them, and all of the kind of right wing who also give in to these, agree with these Reuters stories that manufacture consent for war, if you're one of those people, then this is a bombshell story. It's incredible. Leaked documents, these are legitimate leaked documents, show that they were entered into a contract with the British government to create propaganda to harm Russia. Big story, right? I'll just read you one more paragraph from it. New leaked documents show Reuters and the BBC's involvement in covert UK FCO, that's the Foreign Office, FCO programs to affect attitudinal change and weaken the Russian state's influence alongside intel contractors and Bellingcat. Very incredible. And if you go read this article, it's long and detailed and way more than I can get into everything, but great article, important article. This is the type of thing that our mainstream media should be covering if they didn't have their heads so far up their ass that they can see China. I don't even know what that means. So but yeah, this is this type of thing we should be talking about, should be covering. So they put out this story. Twitter then, in order to stop or censor kind of the sharing of this story, decided to put a warning label on it saying this may come from hacked materials. And I will show you, let's see, that's what they've been putting on it. So Men Press did an article about this and about how terrible it's backfired against Twitter. Okay, so here is Aaron Mate putting up he tweeted the article out, right? And let's see here. Reuters. So Aaron Mate tweets out, Reuters, BBC, and Bellingcat participated in covert UK Foreign Office funded programs to weaken Russia. Leaked docs reveal. And here is the bullshit that Twitter has added at the bottom of it in bright red or sometimes blue writing. These materials may have been obtained through hacking. Holy shit! These materials may have been obtained through hacking. And when you go to retweet it, often it will often a separate thing will pop up in your face that asks you again if you want to retweet this because it's been obtained through hacking. So people jumped on this story, jumped on the fact that Twitter was doing this garbage censorship about it's obtained through hacking, as if important materials don't come out of hacking. But on top of that, they're differentiating between hacking and leaking. Now, these materials did not come through hacking. They came through a leak, which Max Blumenthal has said. They were leaked to him. So leaks are the bread and butter of good journalism. Leaks are throughout the New York Times. They're throughout the Washington Post. They use leaks all the time, right? Anonymous sources say those are leaks from FBI and CIA. They're normally lies, but still, they're leaks. So they use leaks all the time. Twitter does not want to censor the leaks because that would be New York Times, Washington Post, all of our media. They would have to instantly put things, oh, it's been obtained through leaks. So they don't do that. They only do it on things they claim is hacking. But this was not hacking. Now, also, I believe hacked materials are important for people to see. I mean, look at WikiLeaks. Incredibly important for people to see what's being done in their name in our wars overseas. But anyway, that aside, Twitter has decided to lie about this article, say it's a hack, not a leak. But let's ignore that for a minute and look at how people have responded to this. They have started linking to the article in their tweets. And by the way, all of you can do this if you want to fuck with Twitter and you want to be a part of this viral campaign to fuck up their censorship. People have started tweeting the link to the Gray Zone article and then a random photo that is completely unrelated. And because it has the Gray Zone article in it, Twitter is adding may be obtained through hacking at the bottom, a warning. So I'll show you what I did one just recently, and I'll show you what mine looked like. Let's see here. So this is my version. As you can see, I tweeted out link to the Gray Zone article and then image of a guy farting because I figured what could be more random. He appears to be on a mountaintop or something. And then Twitter has added to it at the bottom, these materials may have been obtained through hacking. Yes, thank you, Twitter. Thank you for that censorship. Because apparently the image of a guy farting has been obtained through hacking. And here is, I'll now show you Dan Cohen's version, which has gone viral. It's got thousands of retweets. Dan Cohen, also great writer, great journalist, friend of mine. Here is Dan Cohen's, which is photos of Jeffrey Epstein with Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein with Bill Clinton with one of Epstein's girls, and then Bill Clinton getting a massage by one of Epstein's girls. And then because you put the Gray Zone link at the top, it says these may have been obtained through hacking at the bottom. And that tweet has gone viral and is everywhere now. So as you can see, this has completely fucked up Twitter's attempt at censorship. It's wonderful. But also, this is wildly infuriating that Twitter wants to censor and is trying to censor important work like what the Gray Zone published. The Gray Zone is publishing important work that shows that BBC and Reuters and Bellingcat are working with the British government to create propaganda, fake news against Russia, to undermine Russia, to further the Cold War. That's an important story. And Twitter wants to make sure you aren't easily sharing it. You aren't that, and the people you share it with might be scared of it because it says obtained through hacking. Obviously, incredibly important stories have come out obtained through hacking. Everything WikiLeaks has ever done. Well, no, that's actually not true. Much of what WikiLeaks has done has been obtained through leaks, but some of it may have been obtained through hacking. But actually, I misspoke. Much of it's obtained through leaks, right? Chelsea Manning was a leak. Unfortunately, she was found out through no fault of WikiLeaks. That was unfortunately through her own fault. But still, there's a difference between leaks. They want to make a difference between leaks and hacks, and they want to plaster all important information with this hacking scare banner. And the next steps are that people who post this stuff will be banned from Twitter, banned from YouTube. I have a friend Chris Mohan, I had him on this show not a week ago or something. His videos have been outright deleted from YouTube simply for being titled, "Does America Have Democracy?" I mean, that's a legit discussion, right? That's something we should be talking about. But his videos are deleted and strikes are put against him. So his channel may disappear soon because of these strikes. By the way, speaking of that, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you. But you can also watch it at rockfin.com/Lee Camp. All the donations today, if anybody donates on the super chat donations, all the donations will be going to the Poor People's Army, which Sherry Honkala is the co-founder of. And so we will be giving all those donations to her organization. And the other thing is soon we're going to start a thing where all super chat donations, or most of them, are going to you guys, are going to people who just express need, who watch this show. And you're welcome to email Common Censored. That's the name of my podcast with Eleanor Goldfield. Common Censored at protonmail.com is where you can apply to receive those funds. Hopefully this will keep rolling and we can create a thing where we are very regularly helping people who watch this show who are seeing tough times. It's not tons of money. It's not billions of dollars that come in through the super chats, but hopefully we can get $100 to someone here and $100 to someone there and help them out a little bit. But today, all super chat donations will go to the Poor People's Army. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and bring in Sherry Honkala. Hey, Sherry.
Happy to be here.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm alive. I got up this morning.
How's pandemic life for you?
Pandemic life is rough because I haven't, like most people, I haven't had time to hang out on the couch and watch Netflix sequels and stuff like that.
You've been a little busy for that.
I have been outside every day in the pandemic.
Because you are nonstop. You have a million things going on. You live the life of someone who's demanding justice for people and equality more than perhaps anyone I know. The Poor People's Army is really incredible. If you want to just tell people, the uninitiated, what it is.
Yeah. So we're a multiracial, intergenerational group of poor and homeless families from across the country that have moved away from the nonprofit industrial complex form of organizations and modeled ourselves more similar, if that's a sentence, to other peasant movements in different parts of the world, and in particular the Zapatistas and Chiapas.
That's it's excellent. And I know that something you're really working on right now is for helping people who are unhoused. Am I correct? You're reclaiming houses that have either been left or people have been evicted from. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, we've been doing it for 30 years.
Okay, I'm a little late to the party, I guess.
But, most of the people that, I shouldn't say most, but a great deal of the people that are actually doing housing takeovers in this country, some of our folks have taught them how to do that.
Yep.
And we're some of the pioneers of that process. So, but we are just totally amazed because we're in over 30 properties right now. and there's been absolutely no national media coverage of it. And we know that
You're probably used to that. You're probably used to the media trying to ignore you.
Yeah. But you know, in Philadelphia, there's 10 abandoned properties for every homeless person. And so we don't think we need another study, or we don't need to get in buses and go to Congress and lobby the wall.
Well, just to
It's gonna happen.
just to repeat that, so people realize, really let it sink in. 10 abandoned properties or empty properties for every single person who could use a house or a roof over their head, and it's just phenomenal the way this socioeconomic system forces people out of shelters and leaves them sitting empty, often owned by banks. But of course, during the foreclosure crisis, they kicked people out, even though they couldn't prove that the banks owned the properties. And it's just a completely inefficient, and it's a crime against humanity to have so many people without homes while these properties sit empty.
Yeah. And it's just crazy because I've been doing this for a very long time. And so we were really excited recently that the National Lawyers Guild came out with a national statement in support of us, because many attorneys will tell you that many, homeless entities now that are supposed to help homeless people are supported by so many banks and corporations that they're finding it difficult to support people that do this kind of work. So back in the day, we used to have like tons of lawyers outside abandoned properties that we took over. And now we're lucky if we find one at any given moment. So that's a scary thing, is to be, we know from one of our attorneys that the feds, the sheriff's department, and the East detectives are meeting on a regular basis about us.
Wow, that's incredible. You do have some support from the National Lawyers Guild or something?
Yeah, they put out the statement in support of us, and they're trying to find lawyers on the ground. We're working with one lawyer and his some law students, and he is working outside of some of the homeless organizations in Philadelphia, because there's a conflict of interest, because they receive money from HUD and from other kinds of other corporations. So but he thinks that what we're doing is important. And so, he is, as an individual, supporting us in this process. And, we're modern day, fugitives. I know at any given moment they could decide that they're going to move on any of these houses, or they can indict me. And that'll be a very different situation. Right now we have 3 cases in federal court, and we're emergency federal injunctions that we filed ourselves. And so when those things go to court, things could be a very different situation.
Wow. I mean, this also goes to show how our laws are designed by the rich ruling powers. I mean, what you're doing is illegal, but it's who wrote these laws. It was rich white men protecting their property who wrote these laws, not allowing people to have housing. You said you've been doing this for 30 years. In the past, or maybe currently, have they in Philadelphia, have they been violently evicting people? How do they normally deal with it?
Well, I mean, there's several different levels, and in the hood, that's why for us, we think it's crazy when people get excited about a moratorium on evictions, because we know that both the police and slumlords do whatever the hell they want at any given time. They don't, listen to laws. And so we were surprised last week in the middle of a storm that one of the slumlords, shall I say, Housing and Urban Development, which is under, the country is under a federal moratorium on evictions, and Housing and Urban Development went and put an eviction notice on one of our family's houses that has, a baby in the house and women and other children. So we made a bunch of noise about it, and filed another federal emergency temporary injunction in federal court. And by the way, when you file something in federal court, it's $400 a pop.
Wow.
So, money is definitely needed. But I think that they're just trying to, they're trying to scare us, wear us out, because they know that we have no intentions of ever stopping. We intend to end homelessness by something really, really interesting process, which is just to house families. And so we're literally teaching people all over the country. We're holding Zooms. We're meeting with people in person, socially distancing, and teaching people how to take over abandoned properties. And that's how we're going to end homelessness in this country, is when we decide we're done with it, that all they care about is luxury units, and they don't give a damn if people freeze to death out on the streets, and they don't care if they die from COVID-19 or anything else. And when we just decide, we're done, and we, move families into abandoned properties across this entire country, then we'll end homelessness. But we have no faith that either the Republican or the Democratic Party is going to decide this is it. We're going to have zero tolerance on homelessness. Haven't seen it, never will.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it also shows what a revolutionary act it is, because, if this does keep catching on, and if people stop to think about it, and stop to think about which side they're on, and stop to think about why they believe in these, laws. I mean, I've heard it termed lawfare, where they, drag you into court and exhaust your funds and everything. It's basically warfare via the courts. And basically, why do we live this way in this socioeconomic system that exploits people and leaves them without homes? And we're on so many levels, we're seeing harm and I don't know, war done against poor people. They have these, what do they call them? Discomfort architecture now, where they have high-pitched noises and things to stop homeless people from being able to stay there, and
swivel benches.
Yeah, the angled bench, so you can't sit on it, or God,
you can't lie on it. None of these things. And the thing that's so ridiculous, and is actually not funny, is the fact that every day, every year, people die, and they die right outside tons of abandoned properties. And, if we take a page from history from Harriet Tubman, and when she said, I could have freed a lot more slaves if they had only known that they were slaves, the same goes for homeless people. I don't get it. When my son was 9 years old, my morals and values changed about what was okay and not okay to do. And so when we broke into our very first HUD property when Mark was 9 years old, in order to keep ourselves from freezing to death and me from having my kid taken away from me, there was no turning back ever. And I think that more and more we have to figure out what's wrong with us as a society when there's more abandoned properties than there are homeless people, that we continue to buy into this whole hype that we have to do another study. We have to wait until people are housing ready. We have to wait until money is allocated. Well, that's all good and fine if they're not talking about your family, your kids. And so, yeah, so we've instituted our own zero tolerance, and we're at war. And we will teach people across this country how to take properties and house their families in these abandoned properties in an effort to keep their families alive.
Yes, well, yeah. I mean, it really is a horror show. You mentioned our two failed political parties that can't seem to do anything about. Although I think they are getting ready to do a study. They're going to do another study soon. I know you got to see this firsthand when you ran for vice president and other offices, but how they sideline people who are not within the two corporate parties, how they stop media coverage, how they stop ballot access. I mean, what did you walk away from all that from that run with?
Well, I think it was incredibly important, and I'm glad I did it. And I would encourage people to run as a third party candidate in this country, because we're embarrassing to the rest of the world that we can't get, beyond Pepsi and Coke, and we really have to. But yeah, I mean, little did I know that after I ran for vice president, that every parking ticket I've ever had in my life, I would wake up every morning with 200 emails, and that I would have, different, both the Republican and the Democratic Party, hacking into my Facebook and in my emails, and, doing all of these horrible things. But anyway, I'm still glad that I did it. That's the other difficult thing that we're working with poor and homeless families to understand, that how many more years are we going to have people get in buses and go to Washington, D.C., or go to Harrisburg or wherever their capital is, and ask people permission to expand housing programs, to put a house over their child's head. I think now is the time that we have to move away from that, because the record numbers of particularly people of color that are dying because of COVID-19. And it'll be interesting to find out how many people were, when people talk about socially distancing, it's very difficult to do when you're living in a homeless encampment. It's very difficult to do when you're living out on the avenue and you have to spend money to go get masks or whatever. You're going to figure out how to use that money to eat and take care of your family. So, we think people need to tap into the fact that they do matter. They deserve to live. And it's only a question of organization. And once we develop the political will in the organization, we're going to begin to house ourselves and take back all the basic necessities of life. And then hopefully in our lifetime, Lee, we'll see whether it's the Green Party or whatever independent political party in this country that becomes real. Because I mean, but this next year is going to be frightening with, Walmart, giving record numbers of money to Black Lives Matter and the Ford Foundation, all these different foundations that are, funding anti-poverty work and, funding Black Lives Matter, all these different kinds of important issues right now that need to be separate of corporations and banks.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I mean, I'm sure you get sick of all these. It's kind of like virtue signaling by corporate America, where they act like they're actually doing something for poor people, for people of color, for those who are struggling. And in fact, it's almost worse than not doing anything, because they're making people think that they're somehow helping those who are struggling.
Yeah, I mean, it's devastating. At one point, at one point, I was like, myself and other members of the organization were like poster children, and we were on all of these different magazines, and we went to these duty-free shops, and we, let's just say a very big, powerful foundation, the Ford Foundation, anyway, flew us around the country. And this is when I was still young and ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized when they told me, you can't do this, you can't do that. And one of the number one things that you can't do is you can't, participate openly in independent politics. Then our relationship had to end. And so I know that I will never be on the cover of Life magazine, CNN, but I'll be on Lee Camp's show, and that matters much more.
Yeah, I mean, we get far more viewers anyway, so yeah.
It's a better show.
Speaking of that, have you dealt with? I mean, because you put up, you guys, Poor People's Army, puts up videos of actions or people that talking about what they need, talking about inequality. Have you experienced any of this, suppression, censorship? Because it's coming for all of us. But.
Yes, very much so. And I would, my son Mark Weber, who's an actor, he has decided that he's so furious about this issue that this is going to be one of the things like he spends the rest of his life working on, is that people in the progressive movement and the nonprofit industrial complex that get this money from Walmart, Ford Foundations, on and on and on, are also participating in suppressing people's voices that are not talking the main line, that are not talking Republican, Democratic Party politics. And I was like, oh, that can't be. But if you look up Sherry Honkala, for example, they've pretty much scrubbed most of my history from the internet. And so, I mean, there's one good thing about Hollywood, right? And my son having his own resources and, being a formerly homeless kid, is he intends to, after another project this next year, really begin to work with people that are serious about independent media, independent politics, independent everything in this country. And until we get serious about an independent funding stream, independent media, all of those kinds of things, they're going to continue to hide us, suppress us, because the masters never funded, the dismantling of their house. And
right.
They're not going to do that. They're not going to do it this time. They might let people go, and be a little bit of the loyal opposition. But ultimately, they can take any one of us out of the game at any given point. And he understands that. He understands the importance that the role of the North Star played during slavery. Right now, things like your show and anything that strikes lifting up independent voices is where things are at right now. Even more important than the taking over our houses, because the more that we can reach as many people as possible with a different ideas and a different way of looking at the world, and getting the hell off of this treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all the people that are doing this so-called revolutionary work that's out here, it's ridiculous. It's like, they write a foundation grant for freedom. And we understand people got to pay their rent, they got to pay their mortgage, they got to do these kinds of things. But we need a whole different way of operating in this world. And that's one of like real mutual aid, is making sure that we can all like live and survive.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly didn't take any oath to poverty. But this idea that there's going to be affluent revolutionaries is like ridiculous.
Yeah. Someone was asking how they could learn more and get involved. What are the best places to go to?
Well, the best thing to do is to go to www.poorpeoplesarmy.com. We do boot camps on a regular basis, both in person, more when we've got a hold of the pandemic. And then they can also, we do trainings online as well, Zoom boot camps. We were really excited to link up with folks that are doing, want to do similar work in Appalachia today. And we've recently done, trainings in both Baltimore, in Louisville, Kentucky, Texas, you name it. We can't, with the climate crisis and with corporations just, really, supporting fascism in our country. We can't afford to just do things like it's the 1960s or the 70s. We have to have a new way of organizing. And that means having a people-centered human rights approach.
Mm-hmm.
We got to develop courage and just take all this shit back. That's what we got to do.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. But
it's out there.
But I think the part of the reason what you're doing is so important is beyond just those 30 spaces, is the symbol it represents of like, fuck this, fuck your stupid corporate laws on property rights. There are empty houses that are not being used. We're not violently kicking people out of their homes. We're just going into a space that is available to house someone. And that is how our system should work. Spaces that are available to house people should be used to house people. It is that simple. I mean, it's kind of like you're going by a law of what people should feel in their hearts rather than the garbage laws that have been put forward to oppress people. And that sets a model and an example that is far more powerful than just, those 30 spaces.
Yeah. And we're doing something else also that's very dangerous, which is we're calling out the faith community, unions, shelters, homeless organizations, because we want people to take a position. Like, where are the hundreds of churches in Pennsylvania?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, we're not asking you to like, open the doors, but we are asking you to take a public moral position.
Yeah.
In support of these 30 families. If you are not going to let these families live in your church or your home, and they're in danger of dying during the pandemic or freezing to death in the winter, and you can't come out publicly and support, something's wrong.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And I like to say the same thing about these garbage politicians when they claim, oh, we wanted to help people, but we couldn't get the bill through Congress. It's like, if that were, let's assume for the sake of argument, that's true, then they should be speaking about it every day. Let's see Biden giving a speech every day about how many empty houses there are sitting around the country, or how ridiculous it is that in the richest country in the world, you have people fucking freezing on the streets. I mean, that then at least they could have at least a leg to stand on about, oh, we tried. But when they're not even giving those speeches, they're not even saying that. Like you said, the churches could be coming forward and talking about it and endorsing it, and they aren't, for the most part. Like, that would make a massive difference. I mean, Trump proved to us how much the bully pulpit can be used for, how much a Twitter account can be used for, and it's just not being done.
Yeah, and it was amazing because this is where Biden's headquarters were. And there was homeless encampment on the Parkway, which was literally 2 blocks from his national headquarters. And, no staff person from the Biden campaign ever journeyed out the 2 blocks away to talk to any of the homeless families that were living on the Parkway. So, we're not, we're just not going to wait for them anymore. Staying alive, eating, feeding, taking care of our families, those things are not up for negotiations. And, the sheriff's department, the feds, and the East Detectives Unit can continue to have meetings about us. And we really need the public to understand just how scary that is. Because we know they're not meeting to talk about, giving us a citation, an award. They're
Right.
making a plan. They're making a plan to move on 30 families.
Yeah.
So people have to step forward, say something, do something. Just like the peasants in Chiapas and the Zapatistas, they understood that unless they could break their isolation of just being, poor peasants in Mexico, and link up with people across Mexico and across the world, and shine a light on the inhumane conditions that, they could have been wiped off the face of the earth. And that's what we need people to understand how serious this is, how it has implications for poor families and homeless families. I mean, the millions and millions and millions of people that didn't pay rent in September, those evictions are coming. And either we're going to house them or we're just going to let this tsunami happen. Yeah,
well, 30 or 40 million people are facing eviction. I mean, it's and the whole, hiatus on rent or whatever, on eviction. Well, hiatus on evictions. They're not stopping the amount that these people owe from building up. So if they can't pay it now, you think the moment they remove the ban on evictions that people will suddenly have thousands upon thousands of dollars of back rent? It's impossible. But Sherry, I don't want to use up all your time. Thank you so much for joining me. As we mentioned, people who want to learn more or help out, poorpeoplesarmy.com is where to go. Anything else?
I would just say thanks, Lee. This is an important show. Join, enlist today. You never know when you're going to be called on.
Thank you so much, Cheri. Keep fighting. Stay safe.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, that was Sherry Honkala. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this and for and for the donations. That all the proceeds are going to Poor People's Army, and there is one massive donation from Alan. Thank you, Alan. That's incredible. I'm sure the Poor People's Army will put that to good use. So thank you so much. But yeah, I mean, everything she was saying is just so important. Standing up, fighting back. I've done articles and things about how people should be able to live in the empty homes littering our landscape. I mean, we have whole cities that are increasingly becoming just thank you, RCM, increasingly becoming just empty spaces that are not being used. I mean, Manhattan, I used to live in New York City. Manhattan, the actual borough of Manhattan, as opposed to Brooklyn and Queens, etc. But Manhattan, the lower Manhattan, is increasingly too expensive for anyone who works in Manhattan, unless you're a hedge fund manager. Increasingly too expensive for people to live there. So all of the workers come into Manhattan on work days. I mean, I'm talking pre-pandemic. I don't know how it is now, but all the workers come into Manhattan, travel like an hour by train to work in Manhattan, and they all get the fuck out another hour by train, many going to New Jersey, many going to Connecticut. They're just leaving because no one can afford to fucking live there. But many of the places aren't even really, there's not actually people in them. It's like Saudi princes that just fucking own, they own a half a floor just in case someone, one of their friends wants to stay there for a night, a year. It's just amazing how empty our cities are becoming because the incredibly rich are just buying up these spaces. They're also buying up land. Bill Gates is now the number one owner of farmland or farmable land in America, number one or two, I think. Ted Turner, the former the guy who founded CNN, owns enough land to equal the size of Delaware. Ted Turner himself owns a Delaware of America, and he is the second biggest landowner in America. So there's someone else with another Delaware of land. What I was talking about with Bill Gates was farmable land, slightly different, but still tons of land. People, the rich are buying this stuff up. I mean, imagine if Jeff Bezos decided he wanted to buy up as much land as possible. He could buy fucking half of America without denting his fucking accounts. It's fucking insane. The inequality in this country is just destroying people. And of course, Cheri is one that's fighting against it. But there's many ways to fight. One is mutual aid. But all the donations, as I mentioned, for this one are going to the Poor People's Army. And thank you guys so much for donating. I'll be wrapping this up in a second. At the beginning of this, I was talking about the hilarious backlash against Twitter's new putting tags on everything that says this may come from hacked materials, which if you're reading one of those and you see that, then your response should be good, fucking good. If Twitter, if corporate America finds this scary, then this is an important story for me to read. That's how you should look at that. So anytime Twitter puts that garbage thing on there, you should be excited. You should be like, oh, there's some legit shit right here. I mean, the same goes for, garbage censorship of other stuff when they fucking, want to put, this is Russian media, this is Iran media, whatever. Yeah, good. Let's see him put, this is weapons contractor funded. Let's see him put that warning across CNN's Twitter account or across our politicians' Twitter account. This man, Joe Biden, is funded by weapons contractors. This is funded by big oil companies. Put that warning across our politicians' Twitter accounts. And then you'd be honest. Twitter, all right, rather than only going after the things that corporate America finds threatening, the things, the articles, the news sources, the information that corporate America thinks may threaten them in one way or another, because they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know the truth. They don't want you to know what's going on out there. They don't want you to know that people across America are moving into empty houses. And I know they call this squatting, but we need to use a new term, reclaiming or something, moving into empty spaces. And to be clear here, they're not harming anyone, right? They're not going into houses, grabbing the people who live there and tying them up and putting them in the basement and saying, this house is mine. These are empty spaces that should have human beings living in them who need help, who need a place to live, who need a roof over their head. Why the fuck should they not be used? Other than that these laws, which are ridiculous, are for a capitalist society, or for a profit over all else society, or for a profit over human rights, profit over our fucking humanity. Our humanity is like a distant fucking 43rd on the list of what our socioeconomic system cares about. I say that it's not on the list at all, but I thought it'd sound better if I said a distant 43rd, but yeah, not on the list. It's just about profit and money. So how do you protect your money? How do you protect your resources? How do you protect your property? Well, you put in laws that say, I don't care if that house is sitting empty. I don't care if there's someone sleeping outside of it who is freezing to death. That house cannot be touched because it belongs to someone, because it is their property, even if they never live in it, never go inside, never do a thing with it, except buy it, hold it, and then sell it for more money later. But that's how our system works, because our system is a sociopath. That is, our system is sociopathic by nature. I know I talk a lot about how the sociopaths rise to the top in our system, but it's not just that. It's that the system as a whole is a sociopath. It has no understanding or empathy for people, others, but obviously we're all others to the system. There's no care for humanity. There's no care for environment. There's no care for future, for whether there's a sustainable future. None of that is on the list, which is the definition of sociopathy: not having empathy for others, not caring about what you do to others, how you harm others. So we have a sociopath system at the root of it all. At the root of it all. And you can change some of these laws. You can change some of these stipulations, some of the bylaws of a city or whatever. Different cities do different things, and that will help some people. Spain, for example, has squatting rights, where if a building's not used for, or a place, a house or apartment isn't used for, I don't know, like 90 days or something. It's not very long. Might be 6 months, but if it's not used for a certain amount of time, then people have a right to go in there and use it. And we should have that. And that would help. It would be better, but it does not change the sociopath system at the heart of it. And so until we address that system, we will always end up with this shit. We will always end up with people churned up and spit out and have their lives destroyed and have the purpose of their life destroyed and chewed up and spit out. And so we need, as Peter Joseph says, a new human rights movement. If you haven't read his book, you must read his book, The New Human Rights Movement. I don't care what your previous thoughts about, the first Zeitgeist movie were. As Peter Joseph says, the movement has nothing to do with the first Zeitgeist movie. So if you have some sort of preconceived notion about, oh, Peter Joseph, isn't he the conspiracy guy? Then you've fallen for the fake garbage. So pick up The New Human Rights Movement, read it, and you will learn that a different system is possible. Thank you guys so much for the donation. Sorry, I haven't been highlighting them because I was chatting there for a moment. I was doing the old talkie. But the donations, all the proceeds. Oh wow, $50. Thank you so much. All the proceeds are going to Poor People's Army, which you just heard Sherry Honkala speak about. Thank you, Christine, as well. all the proceeds going to Poor People's Army. They're reclaiming spaces, but they also do a bunch of other things to help people who are poor or unhoused. So yes, thank you so much. And I do these videos every single weekday, except sometimes. And they're at leecamp.com. And my 2 podcasts are Common Censored and Government Secrets. My TV show is Redacted Tonight. It's all at leecamp.com. All these donations from this show, from this super chat, are going to Poor People's Army. But going forward, we're going to be trying something soon. I have a live stream coming up with Eleanor Goldfield this Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Normally we do them at 8, but this Sunday it will be at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, if I have my maths right. And we are going to be taking we're going to be taking all the super chat donations and giving them to you guys who need it. Not those of you who are watching who are doing great, but those of you who are watching who are struggling. And you can email commoncensored@protonmail.com if you would like to be entered into a random thing to receive. We'll be given, maybe the max will be $100. It's not going to be tons of money, but I know that it could help people who are, one bill behind or struggling out there. So we're going to try that, and you can apply at commoncensored@protonmail.com. And that live stream will be this Sunday. Throw it on your calendar. This Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, with Eleanor Goldfield. Please join us right at youtube.com/moment of clarity, or please go subscribe. You can subscribe for free at Rockfin, ROKFIN.com/LeeCamp. Subscribe there. It's a new network, new channel, and it is not doing all of the garbage censorship and suppression that YouTube is. So it is growing, and I think it one day will, defeat YouTube, because people are getting sick of this shit and they're leaving, and I understand why. All right. Keep fighting out there.